Good morning, good afternoon. I don't know when you're consuming this. I'm just assuming it's early in the day. Happy Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. It is hump day, and we have all day long to watch and sweat some basketball because after baseball, oh my, foreshadowing the next sentence, because after last night, all we have left is baseball until football gets here, unless you guys are, grinding those NASCAR streets, which I think they're on a break right now too. So baseball. And baseball's been weird. We're in a weird transition between the All-Star break, the trade deadline, and the dog days of summer. So we're getting a lot of double-digit score games. We're getting some wonkiness. We're getting some teams that are giving up, like the Tigers, where it's a lost season. They're starting to put innings caps on some pitchers. We saw that with Casey Mize, and that's something to watch going forward. We're seeing guys being showcased for trades and some guys being watched for trades. So it's going to be a weird week or two leading into the trade deadline as teams start figuring out whether or not they can make a run for it, whether they can afford to sell, afford to buy. And it's going to create for some maybe different lineups. Then, of course, the Yankees, struck by COVID, they're putting together a spring training lineup and somehow winning games. So last night, last couple nights, really, not a ton of standout pitching, right? A lot of aces are for whatever reason, I guess maybe they were used in the All-Star game and their rotation's not coming up. I know the Yankees are specifically trying to set up their rotation to match up with the Red Sox series tomorrow, and there's going to be a couple of rival division games over the weekend as teams start crunching down. There's a lot of divisions wide open and a lot of wild card races wide open. The only division I think that's locked up right now. It's probably the NL Central, right? Brewers are running away with it. Brewers pretty underrated in terms of NL teams with some chance to go deep. I think their offense kind of gets soured on, but they have the pitching in the postseason. You really only need three really great pitchers. They have that. Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, Woodruff. They have really deep bullpen. If they can click that offense, I think they got a shot. And I think that the Brewers are going to do something crazy at the trade deadline and maybe try and invest in some offense. So we will see. Anyway, today for DFS and MLB purposes, there are games all day, and there's a slate that locks at 12 noon, I believe, 11 Central. Features Baltimore and Tampa Bay, another division game. Padres at the Braves, Mets, Reds, Royals, almost said Bucks, Royals, and the aforementioned Brewers. The Mariners, who, believe it or not, are in wild card contention. I believe they have a spot right now, or they're the first team outside looking in Coors, and the Pirates at the D-backs. Normally, I don't really pay a ton of attention to these early games, but I figured there's enough games on this slate. I can go ahead and just dive in, break them all down. So I'm going to try and cruise through the early ones. There is Coors. I don't know why I start talking and the cat starts meowing. What up, Quinn? I see you in the chat, buddy. All right, so let's get cranked up for that. Take a pause for the cause. Remind you guys that we will be using the RunDFS.com MLB VIP spreadsheet. This is a mastermind of, maybe 8 years of development work. And we are actually using a pretty updated version that has been recoded about a month ago with a couple of new tools and stats being considered in some of the algorithms. And I do have a couple of tabs on the work. So I'll be digging into that. If you guys want access to the spreadsheet, it is a perk of having a VIP subscription at RunDFS.com. That is the place where we don't just play DFS. We run DFS to get a VIP pass. You get access to the 24/7 premium Discord and the RunDFS.com VIP spreadsheets, man. Let's get cranked up. Morning games. Orioles at the race. Keegan Aiken on the bump against Michael Wacha. Aiken, a lefty, Wacha, a journeyman righty. I think in the context of the early slate, especially Fanduel, they only have a 3-game early slate without cores. Pitching is really, really tough, and you really can't get cute because some of these guys you don't expect to go deep, and some of these guys just straight up stink. But I guess the first 3 games, if I had to make an argument, maybe you could make a case that the range of outcomes for most of these cats, maybe not a Jeff Hoffman. And then Keegan Aiken is like somebody that I definitely have never played before in my life, but the Rays are poor enough against lefties that maybe, just maybe, there's a world where, under 6K he could put up a home run type points, right? Like a 2x value, but that's really like a really, really low percentile outcome. You see against Cleveland, he dropped to 16.9. If you got to use something like that, 16, 17, I definitely think it could be serviceable. He's had 2 games against the Rays, 1 start. He's averaging 5 DKP in those appearances. So he would be the lowest option, I believe, on the slate, or at least on that Fanduel early slate. And his weaknesses are going to play to a couple of guys' strengths here on the Reds, on the Rays. The Rays are a high strikeout team against lefties. This is going to be more of a pitcher's park, but guys like Mike Zunino stand out. 33.5% K rate against lefties, but a 229 ISO, absolutely has some power. You see right here the bomb rating, 4.32. If you're not familiar with the bomb rating, anything around 4 or greater are guys I really like to look at for some power. And I do think if Zunino catches that lineup, he would profile pretty well for power against Keegan Aiken, allowing a 310 average against righties this season, a 167 home run per 9, a 5.18 xFIP, and we've got plenty of sample size, 45.1 innings. So the Rays probably going to profile as a decent stack. It's not fun to play them against lefties, but it is the Orioles pitching staff. Rays have an implied run total right now of 5.1, and I think like I said, Mike Zunino, somebody that popped for me a little bit. Maybe Yandy Diaz is somebody we could take advantage of. And then Wander Franco, so far in his big league stint, has performed much greater against lefties. Smaller sample size, but a lot of power against lefties. So those guys stick out the most. But Egan, it's not like Keegan Aiken is shutting down lefties by any stretch. He does strike them out, almost 1 in 3 clip, but he is still allowing a 333 average, a 208 home run per 9, and a high line drive rate. So some of these lefties from the Rays, they might get into one, get lucky, and then get half of a game of the bullpen, and I don't mind looking at that. So maybe a Randy Arozarena also to complete that stack. But if I wanted to go after a lefty, I think Austin Meadows is probably the most talented lefty. And again, the strikeouts do match up good for Aiken versus Meadows, but he'd be somebody in my back pocket as you dip into that bullpen. Is Michael Wacha playable against the Orioles? I tell you what, I don't think it's crazy. 6,700. If you could tell me a pitch count for Wacha, might see him get 5-6 innings. I don't hate the math behind the range of outcomes of him being a solid play. 24.5 against Cleveland, 6.8. You're kind of seeing it. You really don't know what you're going to get. -5, 23, 1.4. There is a wide range of outcomes, but there's still a range of outcomes where 20 plus is possible. And if he gets 20 plus at 6,700 on a core slate, there's a really good chance that Michael Wacha is an optimal pitcher. 1 game against Baltimore this year, he went just 2 innings, 0.1 fantasy points, so par for the course on his game log. But I don't know that pitch count is going to necessarily be a worry for me. 78, 90. So I feel like if he's throwing a clean game, 80 to 90 pitches is a reasonable projection there in terms of pitch count. And then if we want to look at home road splits, he's done better at home, averaging 10 fantasy points a game. So is 10 plus, 15 plus is, I take it at this price point, but it's 10 plus DKP from a pitcher on this early slate, eliminating you from a decent day. Looking at these names, I don't know that it is. Obviously, Marcus Stroman at the top is likely to be maybe the highest owned guy here. It's not like he's in a super positive spot at Cincinnati, one of the most run-friendly parks in the league. I know he's a ground ball pitcher. Then you get Mad Bum. I guess he is at home, but I don't know that we can bank on a deep game out of him. 79 pitches after a long layoff, maybe 80, 90 pitches against the Pirates. what is our realistic expectation here? Does he get 20 plus? I do think Caleb Smith set a really positive precedent of a lefty doing well here, but it's a day game in Arizona. 340, 10K. I just don't know how often I get a ceiling like 10K return. So I think, man, if Waka can get me 14 to 18 on the low side, or even at the high median range of outcome side, 6,700 on DraftKings is probably going to line up as a decently owned play. Looking at this Orioles projected lineup, there is decent hit for average in terms of above 250, 260, but there's also reasonable K rates, 20 plus percent on Hayes, Mancini. We get some big K rates on guys like Mountcastle, Leyba, Gutierrez. So I'd probably against the warm and fuzzy judgment at 6,700 get to Waka. And on Fanduel, looking at this early slate, and on Fanduel, I do like to wait win points and quality starts like that a little bit more. I think he should project pretty decently. The Rays have an implied run total of 5.1. The Orioles 3.6. So he's minus 200 favorite. He's got some home cooking. He does have a problem with hard contact to righties. I guess the biggest power righty on the Orioles is going to be Trey Mancini, so maybe that's the guy you got to wince at for. But at home this season, a 1.3 home run per nine, 238 average allowed. I would like to see the ground ball rate a little higher for a guy like Waka, because Waka is going to throw, I guess, just fastball cutter. Man, the Orioles actually have some alarmingly not bad ratings against that cutter, but it's the best of the worst. So I got to get to some Waka here. Definitely going to get to some Rays stacks, and then maybe a couple one-offs of the Orioles. But for the most part, I don't want to get over-invested on the Orioles on any slate. What up, Tone? How often are you going to be doing these? Man, I keep saying it comes down to schedule and availability. Right now, my schedule's open. Now that basketball's over, my schedule's really open for about a month. When football comes back, it's going to be crazy. And in my real life, I have a lot of other ventures and business endeavors and stuff like that some weeks is going to require my attention a little bit more. And when you look at like my MLB views for the last year or two, a good video gets 100 views. So you put that in comparison to some like NBA streams that will get 1,000. It's not that high on the priority list, but if I can do it, I can do it. I've been thinking about several concepts on how to maybe grow the channel a little bit more during this football season and the tail end of the baseball season, and basketball, for what it's worth. If basketball is going to come back in the middle of October, we barely got 3 months to chill on that. So there's a little bit of a halftime here before it all cranks back up. And thinking about a couple things, man. I've been thinking about what are the odds that I flip my schedule and just start doing a morning live stream every day, like a morning show, maybe DFS Today type stuff, and little ideas like that. So I'm just kind of playing it, trying to see what works. I've posted some videos at midnight to see the traction, done early stream, stuff like that. Obviously, when I don't promote the stream or I don't let people know that I'm going to be doing it, I don't expect anybody watching it. I just happen to look over to see the chat. But I think once we get a schedule going that I can commit to and see some success with, I'll jump on it. But a lot of this stuff's really hard to do solo. So we'll be looking for some like collabs with maybe some other content creators, stuff like that. But yeah, my schedule's looking a lot more open in the coming weeks. So I don't want to commit and tell you guys every day, but I definitely I don't mind doing this because it is part of my process, talking to her Slate, doing research for me. Let's move on to the next game here. Braves hosting the Padres. Chris Paddock taking on Kyle Muller. Muller is somebody we looked up on a couple on the last stream. He's an extremely wild pitcher with a lot of strikeout potential, and a rain postponement got him out of the start against the Padres, I think, and here we are again. Hello, darkness, my old friend. To show you guys what I'm talking about, we do have a little bit of big league sample size, but I did dive into the minor league stuff a little bit more on the other stream. 11 innings of sample size this season in AAA, 17 strikeouts in 11 innings, so way more than a strikeout per inning, but 11 walks, so a walk per inning, and that's against lefties. Against righties, 30.1 innings pitched against righties, 39 strikeouts, way over a strikeout per inning, but 10 walks. So he's got 21 walks in 41 innings. So it's like a 50% walk rate. So you really don't know what you're going to get out of him. This game is going to be game one of a doubleheader. So it's going to really just not get a lot of attention. But I don't think it's fair to ignore it, because home run's a home run, right? And there are some cheap prices. Chris Paddock is on the bump here for the Padres, and it's not unlike a guy like Jock Peterson at 2,600 on DraftKings to get into one. I don't think I'm gonna get to some Kyle Muller because he's been priced up to $9,500, but he does have some strikeout potential. So there's not a 0% range of outcome that he doesn't put up 25. And if he gets to 25, it's probably pretty nutty on this slate. So I don't know. I think that's more of a comfort call. The other thing about this slate, or about doubleheaders on the 7-inning games, sometimes guys will just steal a complete game because it is just 7 innings. I don't think Muller's really a strong candidate for that. And I don't know if I think Chris Paddock is either, but you never know. You get lucky with a couple ground ball innings. Save that bullpen for game 2. Maybe. Chris Paddock's looking a little bit better lately, and the Braves are looking a little bit more questionable. Ronald Acuna, unfortunately, going down. They do have a lot of low batting average in this projected lineup, and kind of middle of the pack strikeout percentages, right? Guys like Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, or even Orlando Arcia, if he cracks the lineup, all sub 20% K rates. But then there's some guys that 25% and above, and the pitcher spot. So there's a world where 7,400 Chris Paddock does well, and I do think Chris Paddock, just kind of skimming this slate, at least on a DraftKings eye, will probably float as one of the higher owned pitchers, just because he tends to be higher over. I don't want to say over owned, but he tends to be higher owned than maybe should be anyway. And at 7,400, I think anyone that can get to 14 plus DKP on this early slate should be in the player pool. So I would include him. With that said, do we love Brave stacks? Probably not. We would one-off some Peterson, some Freddie Freeman, guys like that. One of the things Chris Paddock has been good at least last year, was suppressing power to lefties. This year, that's kind of regressed, and his hard contact has jumped 10% to lefties, and the ground ball rate's kind of gone down almost, 9%, 8%. Maybe that could lean into a positive split for Freddie Freeman, for Jock Peterson, something like that. But I think for the most part, I'd be okay with playing some Paddock and having very tapered expectations. If we, if you started looking at ownership projections on this slate, when that stuff started developing, if you thought Chris Paddock was a little bit overvalued and overowned by the field, like if he reached a crazy number like 40, 50%, something like that, I don't hate the idea of pushing back or maybe matching it and then leveraging it with some Brave stacks, because it is what it is. But I don't think we'll see high ownership on the Padres and Braves just because it's only a 7-inning game, and a lot of people use that as an easy excuse to step out. And you also might get a weird lineup being a doubleheader. So if one of the big guys sits on game 1, and the Braves are pretty much in win now, because that division is anybody's game. I don't know. I don't think they'll go easy like that. But if you do see a funkier lineup, maybe it would be a plus on either pitcher. Mueller being a lefty, I usually do like the Padres against the lefties. Tommy Pham, Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, all guys I like a lot. And because Mueller does have a walk problem, and his strikeout ceiling, his 30-40% strikeout rate, can be neutralized by a team that strikes out a lot of these guys under 20%. So what would happen with a low K rate, high walk, high strikeout guy? They sit there, they take pitches, they draw walks, and if this team can put some ducks on the pond for free, draw walks, we know the Padres will be stealing bases, and one of the top teams in stolen base attempts, and then they get into one. Guys like Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, these are professional hitters with a lot of power. So I do like the upside of a big inning for the Padres against Mueller, and then behind him is a really below average Braves bullpen. And it makes me kind of like the contrarian thought. I don't know. I don't know ownership projections, but I would imagine a 7 inning game just kind of dips at ownership just because it's probably at least one less at bat, which makes it a lot less valuable for like Tatis, right? 5,700. You're probably paying for an implied 3 at bats, maybe 3.5 at bats. So maybe that ownership goes down, but I kind of like the idea of a big inning. And we've seen the Padres put up crazy run totals, right? They had, 14-15 against the Nats in less than 7 innings. So I think I would be here on some Padres if the lineup came out pretty favorable with some of those low K guys and those power guys kind of mixed in. So that's what I'm looking at. Yo, what up, Young C? One time for the one time, sing the Portis chorus. I don't know if I made it to the chorus on that song. I saw Bobby Portis getting some love last night, though. Good for the Bucks, man. Good for the Bucks. I remember last year on Twitter, I was kind of like, I don't know if it was the year before last year. I was kind of cornered on Twitter by some dude who was like, "You're the Bucks guy. They're overrated, blah, 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 blah." And I'm just like, I'm not that petty to go dig that up, but do I still get credit for being the Bucks guy? Mets at the Reds. This is probably your marquee ownership spot on the early slate. Again, just thinking out loud. I don't have ownership projections up, and on this stream, I wouldn't share like proprietary paywall stuff without permission. So I'm just assuming that the Mets, with a 5.7 implied run total against the Reds, Jeff Hoffman will probably be the highest owned stack on the entire slate. Likely even more than Coors, if that's believable. I think it's very possible. Not that Coors has any lockdown pitching, but I can see the Mets trending here. Don't quote me. Maybe they're matching Coors, but I can see them really, really, really high owned here. And there's probably a good chance that we have their lineup and we don't have Coors because it's a solid 3-hour gap. Stroman on the bump here for the Mets. Jeff Hoffman on the bump for the Reds. So Stroman, I think we can all agree, could play spoiler here. He's definitely a better pitcher than what the Mets have thrown out in the last couple of days. We've seen Jared Eichhoff hit the bump, but he's certainly no Jacob deGrom. I think the spoiler in his game is coming with the high ground ball rate and the ability to suppress power. So if he can eat 5-6 innings, maybe 7, because he's not necessarily a strikeout guy, he could really kill this Reds implied 5-run total. But then again, Mets bullpen is Mets bullpen. Marcus Stroman, I think, would have to project as the most talented, I would say most talented pitcher on the slate. Like if we just using today's sample size, I think Paddock obviously has potential to be great, but he's kind of hit a really, really bad skid. And then Mad Bum is just kind of middling here. So I think Marcus Stroman, because of that, I know the 10.4K price tag will maybe push back a little bit here because he doesn't necessarily have a super high ceiling because he lacks the potential to go out there. I don't want to say the potential, but he doesn't often go get like the 8 or 9 strikeout games. But could we get 6-7 innings? We've seen that in his last couple games. 90 pitches, 68, went 92 against Pittsburgh. That was a weird series. And so far, he's done better on the road, but it's the number 1 home run park in baseball. I think his ground ball rate and the fact that the Reds have a lot of 1-4 plus K rates in their lineup, I think I would gladly take shots on him, and I think we can lower our optimal pitcher fantasy point score on this slate because the pitching options are so low, right? Like on some big slates, you might project 25 to 30 DKP from a pitcher being the optimal. That's what we're probably going to need to bank. I think if Stroman gets 20 to 25 here, he doesn't necessarily disqualify you from the top here. So I would get to some Stroman. I think I would always stack the ballpark, but I have a lot less infatuation with the Reds in this matchup against Stroman just because of his elite ground ball rate. I mean, 57% ground ball rate to lefties, just below average hard contact rate, 47% ground ball rate to righties. If you're going after the Reds, you're really trying to get some of that power, take advantage of that. And Nick Castellanos was hurt over the weekend. He got hit by a pitch. He did come in that extra inning games, play some right field. But this lineup's kind of down. Jesse Winker's having a horrendous month of July. Yeah, give me some Stroman. I would probably say Stroman has the highest floor of any pitcher on the slate. and then the ceiling would be subjective. Jeff Hoffman, well, you know what we're going to get with Jeff Hoffman. Don't tell his dad I'm saying this, but Jeff Hoffman, not good. It's not good. He's just really not an extreme fly ball pitcher. At least he has been. It looks like lately it's been a little bit more even on the game log. 35% ground ball rate to a 34% fly ball rate. However, line drive rate's really ridiculous. 31% line drive rate and a really, really high walk rate. And that's to lefties, and then to righties, kind of par for the course. So I think this home run per 9 comes up. I know we're looking at 62 innings of sample size since the beginning of last year, but he's somebody I think is naturally more of a fly ball pitcher, and his xFIP is really, really high no matter what. So if you're going to be a 14% K rate guy against some of these power lefties, Nimmo, Dominic Smith, even Conforto, I'll be an investor in that. And then, of course, I know this bullpen is poor enough that I don't really... there's not a Met I would stray away from. So give me all of the Mets here. And then bomb detector-wise, Peter Alonso and J.D. Davis do kind of stand out. Alonso got into one the other day off of, I believe, Gutierrez. And if we're looking at the bomb detector here on the early slate, I guess I have the entire day, so I don't want to sort it, but on the bomb detector, I got him at a 4.09 rating. So anything above 4 is definitely something that's piquing my interest. So give me some of him, and maybe just for the heck of it, we exercise the pitch report just a little bit. And Hoffman, fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. Peter Alonso's pretty plus against all those pitches except curveball. He's not as plus against fastballs as I thought, but Hoffman does have a negative fastball. But Hoffman's best pitch is that slider, and Alonso's been pretty solid against that. Looking at Stroman, fastball cutter, I think Stroman probably has the highest floor of anybody on the slate. Who do you follow on Twitter for MLB weather that's consistent? I'm going to be honest, I don't. I just look at Roth, man. I mean, I don't blame Roth for when it's wrong. Weather is unpredictable, and not only is weather unpredictable, but people making decisions about the weather is unpredictable. We have seen several examples this season of teams calling games, delaying games, postponing games when maybe they had an hour window to play, or they just kind of muffed the whole situation. So I know Roth gets some heat whenever a game that he thinks could play or should play gets postponed, but that's the guy to look at. He's a legit meteorologist, but other than that, I don't even follow him though. I just if I see some weather on a game, I'll go see what he has. But for the most part, that's it. But y'all go easy on him though. Really, anyone. It's a tough. Weatherman is a tough one, right? Because it's really a matter of percentages, right? You ever watch the weather report? 60% chance of rain, 40% humidity. What the F does that mean? You ever look outside your window and it's raining, and then you look down, it's 38% chance of rain. I was that looks like 100% to me. Can we fix that? Brad Keller on the bump against Eric Lauer. Bunch of contact pitchers, a lefty and a righty. This looks like the roof is open. Milwaukee, home of the world champion Bucks. Maybe some hangovers in the crowd. Hopefully not in the lineup. But this is a game that features Brewers with a 5.2 implied run total. Royals with a 3.9. You got two pure contact guys going at it. Maybe Lauer's K rate is a little bit higher than it should be. A 10% swing and strike rate, 22.3% K rate, with for the most part really high xFIPs or really high contact rates. Starting with Brad Keller's side, a 15% K rate to righties, 21.7% to lefties. That feels a little high with a 9% swing and strike rate, but overall we expect balls in play. So because of that, we probably lower our ceiling expectations in terms of DKP accrued by both pitchers, and they would really more than likely be on the outside looking in for me. But I do think on this slate we might have to open up just a little bit to maybe diversify our lineups, because maybe a win, 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, something like that, maybe that's enough to muscle in a fantasy score at an SP2 spot on DraftKings that kind of gets us where we need to be. Brad Keller, 6,900. If I want to pick on Brad Keller, hit for average lefties and righties. Colton Wong, Willie Adames has been really, really hot. Yelich, maybe he's waking up a little bit. 290 overall average against righties in the last 2 seasons. This year has been really, really rough. Omar Narvaez, he's currently projected to crack the lineup if that happens. He's an expensive catcher, all things considered, but he definitely would be part of the heart of the lineup. That would be kind of fearful from of words. English, do you even? Fearful of in this lineup. So if I was going to get to the Brewer stack, it absolutely would be 1 through 5 in this projected lineup. And then depending on how it actually comes out, maybe throw in a couple of randoms. Jackie Bradley Jr. can hit with a little bit of pop, and maybe a contact guy like Brad Keller could bring that out of him. But for the most part, like, these are just like contact pitchers, inning eaters. Something gets through. I'm not really running to or away from them. On the Eric Lauer side, he does allow a little bit more implied power than Brad Keller. Keller has a really, really high ground ball rate that does kind of offset the low strikeout rate, and that's by design. This year, a 46% K rate 46% ground ball rate. Last year, a 52.5% ground ball rate. This is against righties, and over 50% against lefties. Meanwhile, Eric Lauer's ground ball rate this year, just 34% to righties. He has a 24% line drive rate, 42% fly ball rate, and a 36% hard contact rate. So all that is decent enough recipes for implied homers. And since the beginning of last year, he is rocking almost a 2 home run per 9. Definitely got to look at some of these Royals bats. I think the 3.9 implied run total is a little low, but the Brewers could chop the game in half with that bullpen if they keep it close. But against Lauer, gotta like Salvador Perez, a 377 ISO in the last 2 years against lefties. I know the sample size is really, really limited, but he's a beast. Definitely projects pretty well for a homer here. I think at 3,600 on Fanduel, I kind of like that. I say this a lot if you watch anything I'm on. Fanduel, people tend to stay away from catchers because you don't have to play them. It's like you don't have to play kickers and showdown on like NFL, but I'll play them anyway. Catchers, there are still a handful of catchers in this league that hit for some decent power and some decent average. And Salvador Perez, he's literally an all-star. He's one of the guys. So I like him quite a bit in this spot against Lauer. And on Fanduel, maybe his ownership gets knocked down a peg because of the there's no it's not necessary to play catchers, and then also taking advantage of Lauer's righty splits. Maybe a guy like Jorge Soler, Hunter Dozier could get into one. Like I said, what I'm mainly concerned about Lauer is he could dip into a plus bullpen, even though the bullpen does allow above average homers. It could cut the game in half, and maybe we don't get the at bats that we're hoping for. Let me go pull up this Brewers bullpen report, kind of see what we might expect. Yesterday we saw Angel Perdomo, Miguel Sanchez, Hunter Strickland throw, so we didn't see the big boys. Hader wasn't used. Boxberger, yeah, so there's a chance if this game stays close, you might see some big boys here, but you wouldn't bring Hader out early, so there would at least be a long man that has to bridge the gap here. I don't know. I definitely get to some Royals bats here, but the run total is pretty low, and the Brewers could chop it up. 178 favorites. Eric Lauer is a minus 178 favorite right now. That's kind of crazy, but I guess it is what it is. Let's move on to the next game. Rockies hosting the Mariners. The Mariners are looking like they're going to put out Keenan Middleton as the starter, and Austin Gomber is starting for the Rockies. Middleton, I think, was a bullpen piece for the Angels, I want to say. So I don't know if he's a stretched out starter in this environment. Looks like he's just projected opener. Yeah, 15-20. So at best, this is a full bullpen game for the Mariners. Let me see if DraftKings has an eye on a projected long reliever. Chris Flexen. Okay, so contact righty. Flexen is a little bit more stretched out. Matter of fact, I guess they're just doing it to be different. Flexen lineup of the Mariners instead of going over. Okay, so Flexen is somebody that we should probably just project to pitch the bulk of this game. So we will know Keenan Middleton is your starter, but we'll put Chris Flexen in because I do think 5-6 innings is something that he could be expected to throw. So we'll put him in the spreadsheet. And flexing it, like I said, a pure contact pitcher, that could be a problem in Coors Field. He does have an elevated ground ball rate, but Coors Field is Coors Field. And we'll go look at this pitch report on flexing and see what we might expect versus the Rockies. So he does have a slider, curveball, changeup. So a couple breaking balls at over 30% of his usage, and that could definitely spell some trouble in the thinner air. So the Rockies would profile pretty well for me. They have an implied run total of 5.8. Definitely would be an investor in that. And then running it back here, Austin Gomber. He's been pretty solid at home. A 167 average allowed this year. A 0.3 home run per night, a 48% ground ball rate. The hard contact rate is really, really low. XFIP is still at 4. That's almost incredible considering the environment. And then you consider that the Mariners are weak against lefties, just an 88 WRC plus overall, less than 170 ISO, and a 27% K rate. Is Austin Gomber going to be somebody that people look at today? And I think metrically it's not a crazy idea either. He has a 22% K rate at home. He gets this softer landing. Obviously, Mitch Haniger, Ty France, Cal Raleigh. There are some spots in this lineup I would be a little bit trepidatious about. But at 6,200, I definitely would say that there's a I know you guys are loving this term right now, but range of outcomes. So we turn this into a math problem. There's a world where Gomber is a play. It's the Mariners. Let me see. He's been out since June 19th, so that could be a problem. Let's do a couple things here. One, let's go check out his rehab stints. I assume he's gotten maybe 2 or 3 rehab starts, and then kind of see if he's been stretched out, because he could just be fully back up and ready to go. Let's go to splits. Where's my game log at? 2021. 15. He's got 15. No, that's in the majors. Oh, has he not thrown in the minors? He may not. I guess he's just bullpenned. Tossing 62 pitches during a rehab with AAA Albuquerque last Friday. Why didn't I see that? Austin Gomber splits. Usually like right here. Oh, game logs. I'm tripping. Happy Wednesday. All right, so let's go to July 16th. He went 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, allowed almost a 300 average and a 125 whip, so that's not great. Over a hit per inning, did allow a bomb. So he's only got 1 start since being down. And he went 60 pitches. So maybe I walk backwards a little bit on playing Gomber. Maybe we leave him at 60 pitches. Maybe he goes up to 70, 75. And if we go to the K factory and we give Gomber 70 pitches, let me see what we might expect in the strikeout model. So 70 pitches on Gomber, we might get 5.2 strikeouts. Like, I'm still tempted to tap into that. So maybe I on DraftKings, maybe I get a little bit of Gomber, and I hope for 10 plus as a SP2. But with that said, I'm here on Mariners as well. I think we're playing the math game. I think the Mariners, Rockies, and Mets are easily going to be the top 3 projected teams, stacks, ownership-wise. So Gomber would just be more of a lower leverage play. I'd likely get to more Mariners stacks than Gomber ownership based on the uncertainty on pitch count. And Mariners do have some bats somewhat peculiar with. I want to spend a minute and spotlight Cal Raleigh, because he's still, in my opinion, a little bit too cheap. He was tearing it up. I mean, tearing it up in the minors. And like I said, this is a Mariners team that it's hard to process this, but the Mariners are fighting for a playoff spot. I believe they're the first team out of the wild card spot, AL standings, and they're going to be playing meaningful baseball, whether we believe it or not. Cal Raleigh, we'll pull up his minor league stats from this season and highlight his splits. This guy has been a 300-plus hitter to both sides of the plate. Against the lefties in the minors, 383 and 47 at-bats. with 3 bombs in 47 at bats. That's fine. 129 at bats against righties, a 302 average, 6 bombs. So like okay power, right? The OPS is probably 850, 900 plus when you combine the two. The stolen base is not a thing, right? 2 against lefties, 1 against righties. He has been caught twice. But the point is, like, it's a 300 plus hitter in the minors, and he's getting arguably AAA quality pitching. He's really, really cheap. 2,500 on Fanduel, 2K on DraftKings. It is a earlier game, but I still think it's late enough that he still draws the start. They're trying to see what they got in him. This kid is too cheap. He shouldn't be min price, middle of the lineup, road team cores. So if I ran 150, there's a good chance I'd be on 50% rally right now, just because of the opportunity cost being what it is and the position usually being as dense as it is. Am I saying load up on rally on Fanduel? Yes, actually, because on Fanduel I think it's just a 3-game afternoon slate. So get yourself some rally, man, and I just think 2K he's better than 2K. Kind of said the same thing about Jared Kelenic. Kelenic has been really, really rough in the major so far, but we know it's in him. But I think in this spot, I'm way more a rally fan here. Mitch Haniger, a guy that should profile pretty well. Of course, the big boys. I don't think we need to pinpoint who we play in cores. Everyone is on the table here, so play everyone. And I don't hate a little bit of Gomber. I would have some Gomber. Rocky Stack. If we focus in on Chris Flexen, he has been a ground ball guy, but I am a little bit worried about the fact that a lot of his pitches are breaking balls, right? Slider, curveball, changeup, and that may not play like he's used to. Like these have all been plus pitches for him throughout the season. I want to call it Safeco, but I know it's not Safeco anymore. I think it's T-Mobile, maybe. Maybe that acts a little bit different for him in the altitude. So I don't think I dabble with Flexen, especially if he's not a starter. Like you can't even steal a quality starter or something like that. So just give me a little bit of Gomber. Let's move on to the next game. Pirates at the D-backs. Max Kranick taking on Madison Bumgarner. So we're going to have to do our due diligence on Kranick, because I don't know who that is. But we'll let the numbers do the talking for us. Kranick is 7.9K on DraftKings. Last outing, he threw 70 pitches. That's 20 better than the previous appearance where he went 5 innings against St. Louis. But he only went 3 innings against the Mets. We saw 3 walks there. And so far he's been a fly ball pitcher. So we'll try and get some fingerprints on him. If we're looking at the actual the metrics here, 28.6% K rate so far against righties, 23% against lefties. I guess it's worth pulling up his minor league stuff. I don't think I'm gonna get to a point where I buy in on Kranick against the D-backs, but I'm definitely wanting to educate myself, and maybe you guys can pick something up on who Kranick is, right? So we'll pull up his game logs. I think since he only went to, 60 pitches in that outing, I would probably conservatively put him at 7, or no, he went to 70. So I'd probably match the 70 now, but sometimes pitchers can go 10-15 stretch to last appearance. So maybe there's a world where he throws 85 if he's actually good. So in the minors, looking at his splits while we drink some coffee. Jeez, no sample size. 6 innings against lefties, 208 average, 175 ground out to air out. So he's been fly ball pitcher so far in the majors, but in the minors, he's been an extreme ground ball pitcher. But again, it's low sample size. 8 strikeouts, 8, 9. Any power here? 2 homers and 9 innings against righties. There's really just not a sample size to know what we're dealing with. I guess we'll check out the pitch report on him and at least know what pitches to expect. 94 mile an hour average exit, or average mile an hour fastball, 58% time. So that's such an average fastball. Backs it up with an 88 mile an hour slider, 27%. So basically, so far, a 2-pitch pitcher with a little bit of curveball, a little bit of changeup. Run totals on the D-backs: 4.9, Pirates 4.4. I highly doubt they open a roof in the middle of the day in Arizona. But if for some reason they did, this should project pretty well for offense. Madison Bumgarner, I guess, is a tough question. He's 10K. I think you could argue for, like, again, in this matchup, he could be viable. I think the Fanduel price point's a little bit more alluring to me. I also think Bumgarner, maybe if he has a couple good games, he could be somebody dangled in a trade, for a team looking for a veteran inning eater. His first game back against the Cubs, July 16th, 20 DKP, 79 pitches, 6 strikeouts, did go 6 innings. It's Pittsburgh, right? They're weak enough to maybe allow Mad Bum to have a strong game. Mad Bum's still somebody, I think his hard contact rate is extremely high. You look at the last 3 seasons, he's been amongst the highest hard contact rate allowed to lefties, to righties in the league. So is there a righty on the Pirates that we would target to maybe tap into that? I guess Brian Hayes would be at the top. Maybe Jacob Stallings, does have decent ISO. Stallings has a 20.6% K rate against lefties, and Mad Bum striking out 22.4%, just a 10.3% swing and strike rate. I think he's cutter now. Let me double check that. No, fastball, slider, leaning on the curve a little bit more. It probably Stallings and Brian Hayes if I had to target 2 bats here for the Pirates specifically against Mad Bum. But I do think Mad Bum's playable just because of the matchup being as weak as it is. That said, man, there's a lot of decent averages against lefties. Even Nagowski's done serviceable since he's been up. The Pirates have 4 hitters with a 4+ rating in the bomb detector, so it's not without risk. But I think Mad Bum will garner some traction. I think I would I want to lean Stroman over Mad Bum right now. I'm definitely much more fearful of Stroman, the park for Stroman, but his ground ball rate is real. So probably Stroman, he'll be a sizable favorite, and then Mad Bum. It's just like at 10K, 10+K, you just don't feel like there's a ton of our usual expectation return on investment ceiling on 10K. But I think on this slate, being in context here, I think 20+ gets you to the dance. But with that said, because of the lack of pitching, I think it will be an offense-driven slate, and Coors and the Mets will kind of lead that. So that's their early slate. If I had to maybe put together a couple of guys here, leaning on what we researched, I think I do like what do we say? Righties. I like all the Mets. I was gonna put some names in, but they would all just be 5K names. So Cal Raleigh, play him. Raleigh. What up, KDS? Gun Cards will run down the Brewers in the NL Central. Bro, don't the Brewers have like a 9-game lead? Dude, that'd be wild. I mean, I don't have a dog in a fight. Oh, they're at 6.5. Or no, the Cardinals are 8.5 back from the Brewers. Hey man, if the Cardinals can run down 8 games, that means the Yankees have hope, right? I hope they do. Like I don't have a dog in a fight, so good for them. But I also think like the Brewers are gonna. I've heard some rumors. Like I think the Brewers make a big move for this trade deadline, like a big one. Matter of fact, I've heard Trevor Plouffe kind of say the same thing because they're just there and people don't realize the Brewers are there. Like they have the pitching, they have postseason pitching, 100%. And postseason pitching is like where you start. They'll be in the shadow of the Dodgers for sure, but they have it. Like they have the pieces. You only need 3 aces, and they got them. They got the law firm, Burns, Woodruff, and Peralta. All right, Phillies at the Yankees, I believe, is the first game on the main slate. So I guess we'll timestamp this one. For those of you that skipped through the first half of the video, this is the main slate brought to you by PrizePicks. So if you haven't signed up for PrizePicks, everybody and their brother has a code for PrizePicks. I think my grandma has one. But if you haven't signed up and used one yet, sign up and use mine. Code GUNDACKER. I think a minimum deposit $20. But the cool thing is they're gonna match your initial deposit up to $100. So $20 becomes $40, and so on and so forth. $100, $200. And it's pretty fun to make some parlay style tickets, and they have a wide range of stuff that you can bet over unders on. They have for baseball hits, bases, RBIs, fantasy projections. So I think what I like the most about PrizePicks is it does allow that to seamlessly transition into our research that we're already doing, right? We can diversify our research. I like Salvador Perez for a potential home run, but can I pay the $5K for him if I'm trying to construct a lineup? Maybe not. So maybe I could still take advantage of that inkling by putting over the it's probably between 6 and 8 fantasy point projection. You hit a homer, you clear that, stuff like that. So go check out PrizePicks.com. Sign up using code Gundacker. Whenever someone signs up using my code, they kick me back a really nice, fair deal, which obviously we can't get into, but it is a great way to support the YouTube channel, support what we're doing here without actually having to open your wallet to me. But if you did want to, rundfs.com, get yourself a VIP pass, get signed up, get access to the spreadsheets, expedite your daily research process. Let's talk about the main slate tonight. Yankees hosting the Phillies. This is a game 2 of a 2-game series where the Yankees are down to a practice squad, spring training squad, whatever you call it. Yesterday, DJ LeMahieu late scratch with a stomach issue. This team's still without Aaron Judge, still without Giovanni Urshela. Luke Voigt's on the injured list. Clint Frazier's dealing with dizziness. Miguel Andujar. There's a lot of people hurt, and we have a next man up mentality that you just have to adopt. Estevan Florial called back up, hits his first bomb yesterday. Chris Gittens is in the mix. Greg Allen has been a pleasant surprise. So depending on DJ LeMahieu's stomach issue, he was in the lineup yesterday and then got late scratch, so maybe he's close. This Yankees lineup in this game is really both teams trying to steal a win. This is going to be a full-on bullpen game, so it's going to get funky, so we just X out pitching, and we also can't really over-invest research in hitters versus pitchers because Girardi and Aaron Boone are just going to be in their bag, and it's going to be weird. But what I think I can do a little bit more than maybe someone else can do is kind of project who we might expect out of the bullpen for the Yankees. And like I said, I think this is a punt game for both teams because the Yankees are about to start a big series against the Red Sox. The Red Sox have been scrapping every day with the Blue Jays, although yesterday got postponed. But I think we can piece together who might pitch. First of all, Asher Rojachowski, you might remember him. He played for the Orioles. Not a usual Yankees pitcher. They opting to go with him over Davy Garcia is definitely a question mark, but I guess Davy hasn't been great. Yesterday, the Yankees did lean on some of the more front-end guys, Zach Britton, Luis Sessa. Chapman got the save. Chad Green came in, put in a fire. So today, it's probably going to be guys like Albert Abreu, Brooks Kriske, Justin Wilson. You might see Nick Nelson get called up. I think someone's going to be sent down after yesterday because I think they have an extra body. So maybe one of these pitchers gets sent down. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it'll be one of the position guys. But I think somebody's going to have to get sent down. And then we put together... Well, no, because I don't think they called up Jonathan Loaizaga. Not called up, but activated Jonathan Loaizaga. So I would expect some of these bum arms. Now, you might get a guy like Chad Green to come in and put out a fire. But I definitely would have to believe that the Yankees want Green, Chapman available for the... Red Sox series. I don't think they have Nestor Cortez Jr. activated yet either from the COVID outbreak, so it's gonna get weird. And maybe they just let Asher go out there and throw. Asher Wojciechowski in his Orioles sample size, not great. Maybe there's a glimmer of hope from his minor league numbers, but like I said, at best we're expecting 2 bullpen games, so I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we do know that Wojciechowski has been somebody that has a little bit of big league experience in the most recent sample size being not great. Game logs for Wojciechowski. July 15th. He went 4 innings in that game, a 300 average allowed. I mean, look at this. This is so bad. This is AAA numbers. So I think the game is a stackable game. I think both offenses, I wouldn't fault you for playing anyone. The Phillies side of things, you might lean on Bryce Harper, obviously. Travis Jankowski's projected in a 9 spot. A little bit of a speedster. They seem overcommitted to him trying to bunt to reach. We saw that flourish yesterday. He was in an 0-2 count. He was still showing bunt. But I think the usual suspect Phillies are all very, very viable. G. Segura, JT Realmuto, Harper, McCutchen, and the same. I would say the same with the Yankees. From what we've seen so far out of the backup Yankees, Greg Allen has been the most pleasant surprise. He's shown a lot of spunk, a lot of scrappiness. He's stealing bases. He's hitting for a little bit of power. He got into a triple yesterday, a ball that dunked over Harper's head onto the track. But look at this, 21, 16, 7 fantasy points last couple games. He's been pretty transparent about appreciating every opportunity as he has to wear the pinstripes. He's been drawing walks, 2 walks yesterday, 1 walk the game before. So he would be somebody at 2,400 I like as a penny pincher. And then Florial has been one of the more favorable prospects for the Yankees last couple of years, but every time he gets called up to the bigs, it doesn't really transfer well. Well, yesterday he finally got his first homer, so maybe that's the start of something good. We've also saw Gary Sanchez get into one yesterday, and then Giancarlo Stanton got into one, and it was almost like a finally homer for him. Like, he ran the bases faster than I've ever seen him run a home run trot. And, with 2 hits yesterday, he's a very, very streaky hitter, so maybe he starts something good. And for below average pitching to be taking the bump for both sides here, I think anyone's in play, and I think the Yankees come at a really, really discounted price point all the way through on Fanduel. And Rougned Odor on Fanduel, 2,700, really, really interesting since he's been, over the course of last month, really, really doggone solid for them as well. We'll see what this lineup looks like. If DJ LeMahieu can't go again, we saw Brett Gardner lead off yesterday. I think Aaron Boone might reward Greg Allen, but maybe a leadoff spot or something like that. But this lineup could be really, really weird. Another thing you might look for is they have a backup catcher, Rob Brantley, who started at first base yesterday. He might get, since Kyle Higashioka is still down for the COVID stuff, you might see Rob Brantley start at catcher. I don't think Stanton's ready to play the field. They would like to see that happen soon, especially with what they need. But you might see Gary Sanchez not in the lineup, but Rob Brantley catching and saving Gary for this series against the Red Sox, because they got him lined up with everyone. Garrett Cole, he's going to have to catch Cole again without Higashioka. So this game could just be really weird, and I think the Yankees could have a much weirder lineup, and I think there is a world where there's a no LeMahieu, no Gary Sanchez lineup that has Gardner, Rob Brantley. They got this kid Park that could play some first base as well, and if that happens, I think the your guess is going to be as good as mine on who to play, but I would be targeting Greg Allen to start with for sure. All right, let's move on to the next game. No pitchers there. Jordan Holloway taking the bump for the Marlins. Eric Fetty taking the bump for the Nationals. Nationals implied run total 4.4. Marlins at 4.2. Jordan Holloway, I think he is he a stretched out starter? I feel like that's I'm asking this every game. 5 innings on Holloway, 26 DKP, 20 plus in his last 2 appearances. 6 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts. Got to 72 pitches that last time. Could he get to 80 pitches here? Seems like it's possible, but the Nationals not really a high quality matchup here. So 5,900, I might steer away from this one. And his xFIP is really, really not in agreement, and neither is the Sierra with his ERA, even though his expected ERA is solid. So looks like there's potentially some regression, especially considering the sample size of innings, 100% ground ball rate and 100% hard contact rate. Yeah, what is that? Let me see. Is he a lefty? He might be a. By the way, I got this from he's a righty. How does he have that? Like, how is there over 20 innings of sample size with 100%? Let me pull this up. Math. That, like, it seems like an anomaly. So we'll pull his splits here. Jordan Holloway, lefty versus righty. 200 BABIP, 226 BABIP. BABIP's really, really, really low. XFIP is 504 XFIP against righties with a 200 BABIP. The ground ball rate is at 49%. I wonder why I'm showing 100 ground ball. Oh, that's last year, 0.1. It's late, guys. I haven't been to sleep yet. So it's at 47%. So it's still pretty doggone high, but it's not 100%. I think Jordan Holloway is somebody that I'm not going to play as a pitcher. I think all bets are off with the Nats here. Nats and player run total 4.4. So actually, they're giving him a little bit of respect. But Juan Soto, Trey Turner are playable on any day of the week. And I think Soto's been red hot since the All-Star break. Yesterday he had a really tough matchup, tough split. But I think he can get right back on the ship. The price is going to cost you 57 and 56 for Turner and Soto. Rest of the lineup is between 2K and 4K. So I probably land more in one-offs here, considering this spot, and maybe some of the other spots on this slate. But I think they're always going to be viable every single day. Rest of this lineup looks pretty watered down. If I had to stretch it to a stack, I'd probably reach for Josh Bell and Josh Harrison. I don't really have much interest in like Hernandez, Mercer, Rene Rivera, Victor Robles. So just be focused on those two, stretch to those four. Eric Fedde, definitely somebody we can pick on if we had somewhat of confidence in the Marlins. This is the Marlins team that let John Lester look like John Ohtani. He's got a 4.54 xFIP to lefty so far this season, a sub 20% K rate, 274 average allowed. He is keeping the ball on the ground to his credit, and against righties, a 4.01 xFIP, 23% K rate, keeping the ball on the ground still, but leaking a little bit in terms of power. Starling Marte is one of those names you got to circle. He's definitely going to be one of the first, or at least one of the more marquee names, part of the trade deadline. So if you're coming here from basketball, it's just like basketball. You got to watch some of these trade guys. This is the first game at lock, so we'll see. We'll know. I'm actually kind of surprised he is cracking some of these lineups, especially for road games. You don't want to risk injury, stuff like that. So one of the guys I'm watching as we get closer to the deadline. I don't have any interest in going after some Marlins stacks here. If I want to get exposure to the Marlins, I might cherry pick some one-offs here, maybe take advantage of this power allowed to righties. Obviously, Marte would be at the top there. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to say like Jesus Aguilar, Adam Duvall. Fun fact about Jesus Aguilar, my buddy Fish kind of brought this up to me yesterday. He has an extremely incredible home road split when it comes to power. And Marlins Park, man, it's not doing him any favors as a kind of a journeyman guy looking for a landing spot. His home road splits, when it comes to homers, man, it is very, very unbalanced. And I know that, it's not uncommon, but this is a split against whoops. Go back for a second. I don't even know how I got on this page. What did I click that brought me to Crushing Heaters? I guess that's an article about him. On the road this year, 15 homers. At home, 2. Wow. That's wild. That's freaking wild. So I guess if you're going to try and pick on Eric Fedde's home run power to righties, why not some Jesus Aguilar on the road? I don't get to any pitcher here. Let's move on to the next game. Blue Jays hosting the Red Sox yesterday, postponed. Today, looks like it should be good. Unfortunately, so far, it looks like there's not a lot of rain concern. We'll see if that changes. But the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, this is a meaningful game. Red Sox are scrapping with the Rays, trying to hold on to the first place spot. And teams like the Blue Jays and the Yankees, who the Red Sox have to play today and this weekend, they're trying to make up ground. Blue Jays and the Yankees both not necessarily gunning for the top of the AL East, but they are in it for the wild card. I think the last time I looked, Blue Jays are above the Yankees in the wild card spot. So this is meaningful baseball, and they got to put out their best. Blue Jays, by the way, should be going back to the Rogers Center on July 30th, which maybe will create for less insane offensive games for them between Dunedin and Salem. This has been a very high-scoring home team, right? Garrett Richards on the bump for the Red Sox. 5.21 xFIP this season against righties. 4.38 xFIP against lefties. Definitely very, very beatable. High average allowed to both sides of the plate. No reason not to pick on him with Blue Jays. Implied run total for the Blue Jays, 6.2. So, again, if you're coming from NBA, 5 and above for offenses is something that's like, oh, that's decent. 6 and above is really, really high. Usually 6, 7 are totals reserved for like cores or really, really good teams against really, really bum pitchers. So the Blue Jays have an implied run total of 6.2. They're minus 187. Red Sox 4.5. So decent tilt on the seesaw in terms of Blue Jays offense and maybe Robbie Ray to get the win. Robbie Ray's been somebody that, for whatever reason, all season long, I feel uncomfortable playing him because he's always in a bad park or in a tough AL East matchup. 9,900 on DraftKings. If you look at what he's done, like, it's really doggone good, right? A 3.09 SIERA, a 3.13 ERA. Even in these tough ballparks, the strikeout rate's been there. He's really, really improved upon his historical walk issues, right? A 4.4% walk rate to lefties, 6.6 walk rate to righties. Think about that. He had a 21% walk rate last year to righties. Now it's at 6.6. Still going to have a bugaboo when it comes to power, almost a 2 home run per night to righties, maybe also correlated with the park. Still a fly ball guy. But is there a world with a 30% K rate that he lives and is a serviceable play against the Red Sox? Yes, it's a low percentile for me. This is a Red Sox team that doesn't strike out a ton, especially against lefties. A lot of sub 20% in this lineup. But I think at 9,900, I probably get to some, maybe 5 to 8% in my pool right now if I had to just start with an obscure number. And then, of course, the Blue Jays offense absolutely in play. Garrett Richards, high hours to both sides of the plate. We'll take advantage of that. We'll take advantage of this ballpark. Not a ton of power allowed to righties so far, but there's I can't really look at a number other than maybe like a 41% ground ball rate and say this is why, right? He's got a almost 40% hard contact rate to righties, 34% fly ball rate, 25% line drive rate. Like, it's high enough that I don't necessarily think he's suppressing power I don't want to say by design, but I think there's room for that to go backwards. So I'm not going to let a 105 number scare me. I think it's lefties. Maybe it's a little bit more skill based and power suppression, a 57.3% ground ball rate. Keep the ball on the ground, sure, but still a high average. So Blue Jays absolutely a stack for me today. Favorite bat here, who's projecting high in the bomb detector? I guess Marcus Semien, crazy enough, has a 4.1 bomb rating. Teoscar Hernandez could be in the lineup. Vladdy Jr. is always in play for me. 6K for Vladdy Jr. You know, that's SP2 pricing on some slates. I get it if it's uncomfortable, but he does have the double dunk potential. He definitely has extremely high OBP and a high likelihood of being on base at least once, maybe twice. What breaks the slate at that price point where you got to have it, I don't know, but I do know, like, a lot of optimizers, unless you set them in or check them with the like button, it's not going to fall a lot at this price point if you're going to prioritize some of the higher price pitching. So keep that in mind if you do target the Blue Jays here. I will be targeting the Blue Jays. I feel like I wouldn't have no exposure to the Red Sox, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is still going to be a plus park. It's still meaningful baseball. Atmosphere is going to be good for them. They're coming off a couple of days or 1 day of rest, a stressful or say a disappointing series against the Yankees, trying to get right, get some momentum, and they still have some guys that hit lefties for decent average, decent power. Xander Bogaerts, J.D. Martinez, Devers here and there can get in off a lefty. Kike Hernandez has been really solid, and Jarren Duran, he's another guy, kind of like Cal Raleigh, if you guys caught the early slate breakdown. 2,200, he's better than a $2,200 price player. So yeah, I'm in on the Red Sox, but I'm a lot less enthusiastic on them than I am the Blue Jays in terms of matchups. So, give me some Red Sox, and we'll move on from there. The Rangers at the Tigers. It's been a fun, weird series, right? Jordan Lyles on the bump for the Rangers. Matt Manning, no relation to Eli? Future Hall of Fame quarterback Eli Manning, maybe. Rangers have an implied run total 4.6, Tigers 4.7, so not a ton of projected run production, but it's not because of good pitching. It's more so, I think, a reflection of bad hitting. Matt Manning, 5.42 xFIP to righties, 6.06 to lefties. Just 22 innings of sample size, but he's been a pure contact guy. And then Jordan Lyles, I think there is I don't want to say a wide range of outcomes, but there's at least a range of outcomes at 6,600 against the Tigers where he could be serviceable. I want to see if what we might expect out of Matt Manning. I think is it AJ Hinch, the manager for the Tigers? It's Hinch, right? I think the Tigers are going to be really, really careful with their pitching going down the stretch. We saw that with Casey Mize. So I'm not expecting super, super deep stuff. We've seen the Tigers the second half of seasons last couple of years just be an atrocious pitching conglomerate where they just get tore up from the floor up, 100 losses. Definitely a potential outcome for them. Manning on July 9th went 5 innings, 69 pitches. Nice. So I guess 60 to 70 is probably the reasonable expectation, but there is no reason to play him, right? There's just no strikeout potential, 8.9%. The high whip, the power to righties, 1.69 with a 42.9% hard contact rate. The ground ball rate's still high, but I guess because of the contact, I gotta be at least curious with some of these Rangers bats, if not for just one-off. And the two names that float to me are Adolis Garcia and Joey Gallo. Gallo, much like Starling Marte, a guy that I think any day now you'll see him scratch from the lineup. He's been traded. So keep an eye on that for a 7-10 start. It's only 5 minutes past lock, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. Those two names stick out the most, Garcia and Gallo, just because I believe they're the best power hitters on that team. And a term you hear a lot from me, if you can neutralize the strikeout rate from the power guys, 30+% K rate on Garcia and Joey Gallo, you cross-reference that with an 8% K rate from Matt Manning, they're going to make contact. So they're going to have some of the highest exit velocity in the league when they make contact, and I'll put a couple quarters on that. 3,100 on Garcia on Fanduel, 41 on DK. Gallo probably falls in lineups a lot less at 5,100 on DraftKings, but I think he has the same. He has really good upside at that price, considering the matchup. And it would be a full quality 9 innings of at bats because the Tigers' bullpen is definitely not, putting any fires out. So, am I gonna sign up for a full stack of the Rangers? I probably don't. But like at the end of the night, if we're looking at both teams have 10 runs, like it's not a surprise. Like this is two poor pitching teams, and the Tigers are a really bad pitching team. So maybe I don't know. Maybe when pieces start falling and I start looking at ownership, stack ownership, stuff like that, maybe the Rangers do knock on, tug at me and be like, hey, Gun, get 5% of me. Thank me later. Maybe I'll get into that. Jordan Lyles, 19.3% K rate against righties, 313 average allowed, 208 home run per 9. Notable because his home park, Globe Life, is not necessarily, it's not the Globe Life of yesteryear. It's a pitcher-friendly park, so for him to sustain these kind of numbers, very notable. Comerica Park will suppress power. It is 12 points, I believe, below league average in terms of home run expectation, but he could offset it here with this righty split. So a guy like Jonathan Scope, also a dark horse for maybe a trade, maybe gets into one. Akil Baddoo in that leadoff spot has been really, really good. A couple one-offs here. I don't think I'm less interested in stacking Tigers than the Rangers, but it's not like I have high expectations or high confidence in either. But I could really paint a picture for the Rangers based on two guys I really, really do like. Yeah, so I probably don't play Lyles. Like in my head, I'm trying to spin. Could 6,600 Jordan Lyles against the Tigers, 26% K rate on the season against righties, 91 WRC plus. Like could 6.6K be a linchpin, a bridge, a connector to go get me a Blue Jay stack, right? Could that make the 6K Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a little bit more obtainable? Maybe I toy with that thought all day, but at best it's a risky play just because he's such a volatile pitcher. But the Tigers are bad. So I'll be thinking about that. Maybe you guys let me know what you think about playing some Jordan Lyles today. It's definitely not a comfort spot. Let's move on to the next game. White Sox hosting the Twins. Michael Pineda taking on Dylan Cease and desist, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, so an hour or so after main slate lock. White Sox have an implied run total 5.2. Pineda and his offense 4.4. Twins shopping a couple of their guys. They're kind of giving up on the season. I think Donaldson and Nelson Cruz are kind of the two names that you hear a lot about just because they're journeymen and they still hit for power. I think Nelson Cruz definitely some DH around the American League, maybe looking for him. Dylan Cease, 28% K rate against righties, 30.8% K rate against lefties. At 8,600 against a team that is very hit or miss on this season. I think Dylan Cease will attract a little bit of ownership, and I think we've seen the range of outcomes on the plus and negative side in at least the last 10. You see that negative against Houston. Won't really point and laugh at a bad game against Houston. You see that negative 5.9 against Cleveland. What you're seeing, the ceiling is the ceiling, right? 36.2 against the aforementioned Detroit Tigers, 31 against Baltimore. Twins, he's faced them twice in his last, month and a half, 10.6, 23.9. I don't like to lean incredibly on this far right column, but I'm just kind of displaying the range of outcomes just so we can understand that there's volatility in Dylan Cease. But depending on this lineup, I think his strikeout potential has to put him in the player pool, and I'm very curious to see where he lands in terms of ownership by the field. The strikeout potential, especially against righties, is almost out of nowhere. He's almost tripled what he did last year, added 10% from the 2019 numbers, and then against righties, he's inclined on that a little bit as well. I think it's just, look who's in the room with him, right? Giolito, Lance Lynn, it's hard not to pick up some stuff, and maybe that's helping him out. Hard contacts dipped, so I'm going to be in on some Dylan Cease. And I'll be fully cognitive and understanding that it is going to be a little bit of a risk, and hopefully the Twins put out a lineup that makes me feel a little bit better. But right now, this projected lineup gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys with a 20+% K rate against righties over the course of the last 2 years, and some of these guys, over 25%. So I'll get to some Cease. I'd probably meditate on whether or not I want or need to hedge it a little bit, because the White Sox bullpen is strong enough that could cut the game in half and maybe rob me of a half a game of solid Twins at bats. And would I want that 5,400 or 5K on Donaldson or Cruz to just be on a Blue Jay or somebody like that? But I'll get to some Cease. I don't think I get to any Pineda. Pineda this season, to his credit, not the worst against righties, 3.8 xFIP, but against lefties, he's really, really struggling. That's no surprise. 4.78 xFIP, 2.12 home run per 9, a 1.35 overall home run per 9 on the road with a 2.78 average allowed and a 4.33 xFIP. White Sox are really doggone good. Tim Anderson's shown a little bit of pop lately. Gavin Sheets with a heroic walk-off the other night. This is still a team that, even when they're missing a couple of guys who you thought that they would be leaning on, the Roberts and stuff like that, they still have some pieces that are really, really doggone talented. Definitely one of the teams to look out for in the AL when it comes to postseason and playoff pushes. Maybe they'll be a surprise buyer. I don't know how much capital they have left, but the top of this lineup really, really strong against righties. 1 through 6 in its projected lineup, batting 260 or better, a couple of 280s or better, and then the ISOs are really strong. 200 plus ISO in 2 through 5 on this projected lineup. Yeah, Gavin Sheets, maybe his sample size is a little small, and we're going to get to water down these numbers a little bit, but I still think 200 is a reasonable spot to land, from 387. So give me some White Sox here. I think it's a reasonable run total to target, and I also think the Twins bullpen is something we can pick on as well. Definitely not like a front end stack for me, but not a bottom end either. Like, it can be one of my teams in the middle, maybe 10-12% that I look at, land on, have some fun with. Let's move on to the next game. Indians at the Astros. Eli Morgan taking on Lance McCullers Jr. Eli Morgan is representing an offense that has an implied run total of 3.4. for the Indians are projected to be one of the lowest scoring teams on this slate. Astro is a minus 227 favorite right now, 5.2 implied run total. You might see the roof popped open in Minute Maid. And Lance McCullers Jr. has a large favorite, 10.1K a week offense here. Is this a spot to fire him up? Indians do offer quite a few lefties and switchies. And I think the height, the ceiling of McCullers' game comes with his splits against righties. 29% carry to righties so far this year, 23% against lefties. I guess you could argue that maybe he has room for improvement to get closer to that 29% he did last year. But I also know that the Astros are probably one of the teams impacted by the sticky stuff. So as a heavy curveball pitcher that McCullers is, who knows? But I do think McCullers is going to profile as one of the more trendy, I'm going to say more trendy, but one of the more sought-after top-end options just because the Indians are so not great. 20% curveball usage so far, 16.4% changeup, slider, and fastball for McCullers. So a really, really deep and diverse pitch mix. And the Indians, to their credit, have a lot of positive grades against that curveball in the last 2 years. Some decent returns against the slider. And that lane of J-Ram, Fanduel Rays, and Bobby Bradley project decent against the fastball. So is there some room to play spoiler for the Indians at 3.4 implied run total? Maybe. I want to see what this projected or this confirmed lineup ends up being. But it's hard not to at least give McCullers the respect he needs to be one of the top options. Like if you had to simulate the slate, 10.1, he's not even like that crazy expensive, right? Robbie Ray gets a tough matchup in a tough park. Urias, maybe. Like, there's not a ton of upper echelon pitching. So, I think Lance McCullers, if you had to simulate this slate, like, there's a big chance he's a top 2 optimal pitcher. And what does that mean? Could 20 DKP be that? I think it's possible. Just real quick, if you guys don't mind, I want to see what Lance McCullers' sample size innings-wise this season against lefties is. Just because I'm curious to see if we might project progression to the numbers last year or if it's 37 innings. So it's a decent sample size. So maybe that's a sticky stuff thing. Also, I feel like he's definitely been somebody that uses that curveball a lot more. Like I'm actually a little bit stunned that he's only got 20% curveball usage. So just out of curiosity, let me go back to 2018 and look at season stats, pitch type, and go Geeter, because I swear this guy was like a main curveball thrower. Here we go. Yeah, 30. Okay, so in 2020, 37.6% curveball, and in 2018, 46.7% curveball. So maybe the almost 20% drop in curveball usage could be part of the little decline in strikeouts versus lefties, and him also adding a slider, like that's a pitch he's never used before, is also something that is helping him against righties, and it's just giving him some extra. So, okay, it was just bugging me. I had to go check that out. All right, give me some McCullers here. He's probably going to be a top 3 owned pitcher on the slate. Can't really talk our way out of it, but I could create some lanes of pushback in terms of maybe the Indians are a stronger matchup than perceived. But I'll be right there on Lance McCullers. Big ground ball rate, huge ground ball rate. He's got to be the SP1, probably the top cash game pitcher on the slate. So play it. Play it. Let's move on to the next game here. The Cardinals hosting the Cubs. I kind of like didn't mention the Astros offense, by the way. Eli Morgan, pretty bad. 364 average allowed to righties. High power allowed. Bullpen is beatable. Bullpen is above average in like home runs and hits per 9, but like it's the Astros. So Astros definitely somebody that I think will get landed on. I don't know if they're like the highest on stack. I guess the Blue Jays would be the highest on stack just because they're a mile ahead of everybody in run total. It looks like the Astros might be tied with the White Sox right now in run total. So, yeah, maybe the Astros do end up being a top 4, top 5 sought-after stack. And they're really, really affordable on FanDuel. and not astronomical on DraftKings. So Astro Stack definitely gonna kind of rise to the top there. So I would expect decent ownership by the field on them. Moving on to the next game, Cubs and the Cardinals, Kyle Hendricks and Adam Wainwright. So here are two middling pitchers that I think if we're uncomfortable with going crazy on McCullers or going crazy on Robbie Ray, I think Hendricks and Wainwright are going to be guys that we have to kind of divvy. I've been highlighting names that we might be watching for trades. The Cubs, I think they're wide open. They got their window open, looking their head out. Chris Bryant's a name. Anthony Rizzo's a name that might get moved. So any day now you might see, a late scratch in them. And then the Cardinals, I don't know if I'm as optimistic on the Cardinals making the run there, but maybe they do make a run for the wild card. Even that one's pretty tough. So pitching wise, though, I think you can make a case for both pitchers, right? A pretty plus Pitchers Park in Busch Stadium. You're not getting like this 7.5 to 8K discount at the price points here. 9.3K on Adam Wainwright, 9.1K on Hendricks. There's still a world where their 20 could be just as solid as the 20 from the 10K pitchers. Not as confident here, but the matchup is at least the Cubs just seem like they're packing it in. Rizzo 16% K rate, Hayward 18.5%, but not really backing it up with much power to be fearful of. Maybe a little bit of revenge. But, Nico Horner, 17.2% K rate. Outside of that, everyone else is like almost 1-3, right? It's a lot of strikeout potential in this lineup. So, Waino, who has been pretty good at home, 3.63 xFIP at home this season, 23.2% K rate, 205 average allowed, and a homer per nine under, it's 0.81. That's nuts. He's throwing strikes. I think Waino could be absolutely a top 3 pitching target for me today, and I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up being like my number 2. What can we put on him as a pitch projection? 88, 97. So he could throw 100 pitches with the best of them. So I think Wainwright's definitely a viable, extremely viable option for me. I definitely think his floor is really, really solid. Like, he doesn't have a bunch of negatives in there. So Wainwright might be. I'm sure. I'm talking through it like maybe I'm uncovering some gold here, but I wouldn't be stunned with as sharp as the field is that Wainwright ends up being a top 3 owned pitcher as well. But it makes a lot of sense. So give me some Wainwright. Look at the pitch report on him. See what we're working with. I don't know why I said it like that. Just going to throw a curveball a lot. There are some positive grades here against the curveball from the Cubs side. Wilson Contreras, Rizzo, Patrick Wisdom's just broken. Jake Marisnick. Marisnick's not a guarantee to make the lineup. You might see guys like Ian Happ or somebody like that crack the lineup. But, give me some Wainwright. Do we play Kyle Hendricks? Kyle Hendricks has no strikeout stuff against righties. A contact pitcher to lefties. The Cardinals, in this park, we're not sniffing out a ton of power, but maybe we could get to some one-off power. With these low K rate guys, I do like to look at the high K rate, high power guys, and Tyler O'Neill definitely fits that bill. A 237 ISO with a 30% K rate. We chop that K rate in half with this 15% K rate by Hendricks. Hendricks does have a 1.5 homer per 9 to righty so far this year. That's been pretty even with his road homer per 9 numbers. So maybe Tyler O'Neill surprises people with a long shot, 3,200, 3,500. Reasonable price point. And then Arenado. I think Arenado's Fanduel price, in contrast to like his DraftKings price, like just to kind of like paint the picture, like Tyler O'Neill is $100 cheaper than Arenado on Fanduel, but he's like almost 2K cheaper on DraftKings. So I do think there's maybe some implied value in Arenado's price on Fanduel. But I'd just be cherry picking here. I think I'm not invested in going crazy with this game, right? I don't think I get to any Hendricks. At first, I thought I was going to talk myself into playing a little bit. These strikeout numbers are just not there for me. So give me some Wainwright, and I'm not that excited for Hendricks. Let's move on to the next game, which is the last game. So once again, we'll take a pause for the cause. Remind you guys can have access to the spreadsheet and my player pool. I actually do dress up a sheet for the main slate. I'll probably go to sleep right after this. But for the main slate, I'll have kind of my player pool for each position, my tiered pitching, my personal exposure to stacks. And this is, I think, for my like 5-man stacks on DraftKings. A couple of notes. Sometimes I'll put some weather notes, stuff like that. My home run calls. Pretty good at home run calls. Not gonna lie. But yeah, if you guys want to like compare your stuff to mine, that'll be there. And then of course the bomb detector. All this will be cleaned up when I wake up. I'll get rid of the early slates and stuff like that. If you guys do want to research the early slate, the projected lineups are up there. I'm trying to get somebody to help me out and edit the stuff during the daytime. Reaching out to a few people, so maybe I'll get some co-moderators to tidy it up. If you guys want access to this, it's a perk of having our VIP pass at RunDFS.com. Also, if you want to lock in for the rest of the year, there is a year-end pass up there, and that's going to scoop up NFL almost the whole season, going to January 1, the big chunk, the start of basketball, the rest of baseball. I'd love to have you. I know the weekly and the monthly passes right now are pretty low for VIP. It's that time of year where I keep it pretty discounted because it's not as strenuous as the daily content grind is for basketball and football. But for example, like the month pass right now is at $60. That's $100 when basketball and football's back. So you get some really sharp discount, right? 40% discount if you guys want to hang out. And then I'm a lot more accessible right now. So some of you guys that maybe want to learn baseball, I'll be around. Hit me up on Discord, in the Discord. Jump into pre-lock voice chats for about 2 hours. If I'm not booked somewhere else for a stream, you can jump in the pre-lock voice chat. This is the Discord, by the way. I'm getting tagged into something in NBA. I'm kind of scared to click it while I'm live. But our boy Russ, shout out to Russ. At the playoffs lit. Okay, buddy. Some Bobby Portis love here. But before lock, there's a tab right here, MLB voice chat. I'm in it. You guys jump in there, introduce yourself, man. Have some fun. All right, main event tonight. Dodgers hosting the Giants. Also, if you're watching on demand, hit that thumbs up, man. Show me some love. And the more thumbs up, the more love, the more of these will pump out. Giants at the Dodgers. Logan Webb, the projected starter, going against Julio Urias. Implied run total for the Giants, 3.6. Dodgers, 4.5. That's really low considering it's Logan Webb. 82 degrees out there in LA, 10 p.m. Eastern. So what's that, like 7 in Cali time? Logan Webb, 8.8K on DraftKings. He has a 29.2% K rate to righties and a 23.8% K rate to lefties. This whole pitching staff is I don't want to say overperforming, but it's definitely surprising people versus their expectations. And I guess Logan Webb kind of fits the bill on that. Sierra, expected ERA, all really in line with really good results. But I think the Dodgers are a really, really talented team. So if we get a lot of eyes focused on the Blue Jays, maybe the Red Sox, the Astros, guys like that, I can get to some Dodgers, and maybe the Dodgers lineup comes out late enough where people start committing to other teams, because I think this is still a powerful lineup. Recently, they have reintroduced Cody Bellinger back into the lineup. You know, if he gets right, he's dangerous. Muncy, Mookie Betts, those guys, if they're in the lineup, it's strong as well. I do want to say that it's not a guarantee that Max Muncy or Mookie Betts crack the lineup. Maybe there's a blurb that can update us on that, but I think they were both kind of beat up. So I'm going to go hitters here. Mookie Betts is listed as day-to-day. There's a lot of day-to-days here. Mookie Betts' hip is not in the lineup Tuesday against the Giants. Betts was expected to rejoin starting tonight. So he was expected to start last night, and he didn't. So continuing his absence for a couple days. So Mookie Betts not a guarantee to be in the lineup. Max Muncy dealing with a contusion. He was yanked from last night's game after getting hit by a pitch. So look for that. You know, maybe that bruises up Justin Turner. No, Justin Turner got hit by a pitch, not Muncy. Clicked on the wrong thing. Muncy had the shoulder contusion. Oh no, they were both hit by a pitch, right? Am I tripping? So this Dodgers lineup might actually be weak. He struck by a pitch, man. A couple pitch. Okay, so watch the news on these guys, because we could have I don't want to say watered down, but it definitely could be a little less of an upside lineup if you don't have Betts, Muncy, Justin Turner. So if it was like Will Biddy, you might see Chris Taylor lead off. Maybe that'll Dude, he's 5.5K. Holy, that's a lot. That's a lot for Chris Taylor. But you might see Chris Taylor lead off, and then guys like Will Smith, Cody Bellinger get a uptick here. So I guess we have to keep our ear to the ground on that. But if the Dodgers end up being okay or full strength, I mean, these are insane numbers that maybe we get at a decent ownership. A lot of 200, 300 plus ISO, high OPSs. I'm willing to gamble on some Logan Webb being less than stellar. Logan Webb on the road this season, a 270 average allowed. The xFIP's still great, so I'm not going to credit Oracle, but just a 22% overall K rate. So there's a world where the Dodgers thrive. So I'll get to that, and then maybe I don't want to say based on the lineup, but maybe based on these metrics, right? The xFIP Sierra, the strikeout numbers, I probably have a little bit of Logan Webb. It definitely wouldn't be more than like 10%. Like I would cap it at 10%. I'm not saying I would have 10%, but I think those numbers kind of suggest that there's a world where he can get to 20 plus. He dropped 26 against the Dodgers on the 29th of May. And his last couple starts, 45 and 60 pitches. So I guess I'd have to meditate on pitch count. If we gave him another 15, it would be 75. We probably don't play Logan Webb on 75 pitches. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. I'm just kind of talking through. Yeah, if you tell me 75 pitches, probably not. Julio Urias, a little bit more intriguing. 26.8% K rate against righties, 30.4% K rate against lefties. Another guy that length and pitch count going 6+ innings. That's always volatile as well. 5.2, 7.6, 5.14. So he would just be kind of a range of outcome play at 9.7. Another guy I would not have more than 10% of. I probably wouldn't have more than 5% considering this matchup. He's averaging 16 DKP in this spot, 15 Ks, 11 innings. I think I'd probably have way more Wainwright in that regard. So, but with that said, Rice is a guy that I don't want to go out of my way to pick on. He's really, really doggone solid, and his bullpen is all right. The Dodgers bullpen pretty above average in suppressing power and stuff like that. So this might be, depending on this Dodgers lineup, it might be a stay away game. But if the Dodgers lineup comes out decent and I can get solid ownerships, meaning lower than their upside, and 8 to 12% of a Dodgers equity would be leveraged, I'd take it on this slate. But I would want the guys, right? I would want the Betts, the Muncy, hopefully the Justin Turners. But it sounds like Turner's the most likely to not play, and then we'll see on Mookie. Mookie's missed a while, so he's probably closer than in than out, and then we'll see Muncy. Could have been precautionary stuff because Dave Roberts is always taking guys out of the game. Julio Urias, a lefty, if you wanted to pick on him. There's definitely some sweetheart Cinderella bats here. I call them the Giants against lefties. Austin Slater, Buster Posey's come back in the last couple days. We've seen him hit a bomb. Darren Ruff's a perennial lefty masher, 336 ISO since the beginning of last year against lefties. Wilmer Flores, known lefty masher. So I guess there's some chip and chair shots here. But nothing I'm chasing down that I have to have. Definitely would be really low on the Giants. Giants implied team total 3.6. So that's right down there with the Indians. So they're not going to have a ton of ownership, and I really don't have a ton of hope in them going off, right? We did it. That's both slates. So if you guys are catching this on loop on YouTube, again, show me some love. Hit that thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you do appreciate some DFS baseball content, so subscribe. I would appreciate it. Otherwise, man, that's it. Twitter.com/Gundacker. Hit me up. DMs are open, all that good stuff. I may see you guys tomorrow. Let me see what tomorrow's schedule is looking like. I have this thought of doing a morning show, but the problem with that is I'm not a morning guy, so it'd be right before I go to bed. So right after this, I'm going to bed. Tomorrow's slate. Ooh. Maybe not. Well, tomorrow's a decent main slate. It looks like the Tigers day game, so we just ignore that. And then 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. 8-game main slate tomorrow. So maybe. I don't know. If you guys spam the comments, show some love, and would want to do it tomorrow, I could maybe shoot for a 7 a.m. Central stream. Maybe we get some live action, and then if you guys want to play along and play some baseball DFS, I'd be down, right? I appreciate you guys hanging out, man. I love each and every one of you. I hope you guys crush it tonight. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money. Peace.